Alright. No. No, this hold music sucks. No, where's the other... Bring the other hold music back. Yeah! Yeah, that one. There we go. Ugh. Nice.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
At that time, you may press star 1 on your phone to ask a question.
Catherine Hambleton with NASA's Office of Communications. Inside the Vehicle Assembly Building at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, technicians continue to prepare SLS and Orion for Artemis 1. The first in a series of increasingly complex missions, Artemis 1 will be an uncrewed flight test that will provide a foundation for human exploration in deep space and demonstrate our commitment and capability to extend human existence to the moon and eventually to Mars. Here to talk with us about the status of Artemis 1 are Jim Free, Associate Administrator for the Exploration Systems Development Mission Directorate at NASA headquarters in Washington, Cliff Lanham, Senior Vehicle Operations Manager for the Exploration Ground Systems Program at Kennedy, and Mike Serafin, Artemis Mission Manager from NASA headquarters. After a brief opening comments from each of our speakers, we will take your questions. And first, we will go to Jim Free. Jim?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you for making the time to be with us today on really a special day, anniversary of the Apollo 11 landing 53 years ago. And it's really great to talk about this test flight to begin our Artemis program to go back to the moon. And you know, this is our first flight, and this is a campaign that we're building. This is a series of missions to achieve objectives that we're laying out as an agency to do near-term and long-term exploration both on the moon and beyond. So we wanted to kind of give you an update. I know folks are really thinking, hey, when are we going to launch? And we want to have Cliff talk to you about the details of what is between now and launch for us, and Mike Serafin to share the details of based on when we're hoping to launch, what those missions look like, and what we're trying to accomplish. And I'll just jump right to it. I know folks are thinking about the dates, and I want to make sure that you know that these are what we're working to today based on how the work's gone in the VAB, and Cliff will share some details on that with you, and how all the assets come together, including how the weather cooperates with us. So we have placeholders on the range for August 29th, September 2nd, and September 5th. We have a schedule that Cliff and all of our programs have put together that gets us aligned with that date, with what we know today, what we know about the repairs we've done since we came back from wet dress, which we consider successful. The success for us is we got the T-minus 29 seconds. We executed 115 out of 120 commands. We were gimbaling the engines. We got the stage to replenish. You heard a lot of that from our program managers the last time. And then when we got back, we went to replace some of the seals on the quick disconnects on the tail service mast umbilical, and we found that one of the collets that holds the umbilical plate on had some loose fasteners. We had to go in and fix that. Cliff will talk about that in some more detail. that actually gave us a little pause of wondering if we were going to be able to make launch attempts on those 3 dates, and I stress launch attempts. Cliff will share with you what's been done since that repair that gave us some confidence to talk to you today about the dates that we're holding on the range. Those are dates just like other missions hold, so it's not an agency commitment. We'll make the agency commitment at the flight readiness review just a little over a week before launch. But these are the dates that the team is working to and has a plan to. That has a lot of work left of things that we'll have to do and probably learn from, including closeouts. We'll have to make some decisions, and Cliff can talk about the decision to roll out. And as Mike Serafin pointed out to me recently, we've made some decisions already with some of the activations of batteries that have a life before they have to be replaced. So we're here today to say, hey, we think we're on a good path to get to attempts on those dates. Of course, it's the first time we're trying to launch this vehicle, so I heard the Deputy Administrator today say she used to tell her family when that wanted to come for her launch, she said, plan a 7-day vacation to Florida, and you might see a launch in there too. So we're trying to make sure that everybody understands this is the first time that we're going to try and launch this vehicle. We're going to be careful. We're going to work hard to meet the attempts on those dates that I gave you, and do our best to position ourselves to have the confidence in those dates. So let me turn it over now to Cliff and let him walk you through our flow between now and then, and some of the things that the team down there has worked through recently.
Okay, thank you, Jim, and good morning, everyone. So since arriving at the vehicle assembly building back on July 2nd, our teams have been pressing ahead to prepare the Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft for the Artemis 1 launch. So that has included repairing the source of the hydrogen leak that the engineers identified during the last wet dress rehearsal. We have replaced those seals on the core stage, and we are in the process of getting postured to do the testing, the retest of those seals to make sure we don't have any leaks there. When we first demated the umbilical plate, we did find a loose fitting on the inside wall of the core stage, and it's called a collet, and it helps attach the umbilical plate to the rocket. And it was decided that we needed to go in there and to the engine section of the core stage and repair that, which included tightening up the bolts to tighten that collet up. So we did that. That work is now complete. And again, the umbilical is attached, and we're just about ready to get into our retest of those interfaces. Aside from the hydrogen leak repair, we have also been working on the final closeouts on the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, or the ICPS. That has included some reaction control system valve testing. We've also changed out a navigation and control assembly unit there. That was all planned work when we got back from WDR, but that work is all now completed. We have also activated our batteries, as Jim mentioned, which again puts us on a path towards that late August timeframe for launch. The batteries have been installed into the booster forward assemblies as well as into the ICPS, and we're expecting to do the core stage batteries next week. Like I mentioned, our teams continue to conduct the final operations before returning to Launch Pad 39B for the Artemis 1 mission, which also includes getting into the flight termination system operations. Part of this work involves removing the core stage and booster safe and arm devices. We've changing out the command receiver decoder boxes. That's all been planned work for us. And then we're looking to get ourselves ready for the actual testing. We will be doing ordnance ops this weekend on the ICPS, which is separate from the flight termination system testing. But we're converging towards that point here at the early parts of August. And finally, on Orion, we've performed our power testing and have also installed some of the payloads, such as the technology demonstration that will test the digital assistance and video collaboration in deep space. We've also installed one of the mannequins, Commander Moonikin, Campos, which will fly aboard Orion to test the spacecraft systems. So we've done a lot of work since getting back into VAB. We continue to press hard towards getting towards rollout, and soon we'll be getting into our final closeouts of all the different volumes in the spacecraft and get ready for rollout. And with that, I'll pass it over to Mike.
Okay, thank you, Cliff, and good morning to everyone. Thank you for following the Artemis 1 mission here. I'll briefly recap our objectives for this Artemis 1 test flight. And one of the things that I do want to emphasize up front here is that the objectives that I'm going to outline here remain the same regardless of which day we launch. So our first and our primary objective is to demonstrate Orion's heat shield at lunar reentry conditions. So we want to demonstrate that it can withstand the high speed and high heat that the spacecraft will encounter when it reenters the Earth's atmosphere. When Orion returns from the moon, we'll be traveling about 24,500 miles an hour, or Mach 32, and experience temperatures half as hot as the sun outside the heat shield. So that is much faster and much hotter than we return, or the temperatures that we see when we return from low Earth orbit, or when we return from high Earth orbit on Exploration Flight Test 1. While the heat shield has undergone extensive testing on the ground, and a similar design, not this exact design, but the similar design was demonstrated on Exploration Flight Test 1, no aerodynamic or aerothermal test facility can recreate the conditions that we will see when we return from lunar reentry and lunar return conditions. So validating the heat shield is our primary objective and is a critical activity that we see is necessary before we fly crew on Orion on the very next mission. So our second objective is to demonstrate operations and all of the flight modes of the rocket and the spacecraft, all of the facilities across all the mission phases. So during the flight test, the teams will verify the launch vehicle and the spacecraft systems, such as communications, propulsion, navigation systems. Orion itself will give us further confidence as a human-rated spacecraft that it can tolerate the extreme thermal environment of deep space, and that we can fly in the deep space environment, including passing outbound and then returning through the Van Allen radiation belts. Orion's main engine and the solar array wings will need to work as designed, and the operations teams will need to manage across all the flight phases, whether it's pre-launch, launch, the lunar flyby, and then return back to the Earth, and then recovery. So we've got to demonstrate all of these vehicle systems and the performance, and understand the uncertainties across all of the teams and all of the facilities involved across all the mission phases. So our third objective is to retrieve Orion after splashdown. And while engineers will receive data throughout the course of the mission, retrieving the crew module after splashdown will provide information to engineers to inform future flights. Once we return to the Kennedy Space Center after the mission, technicians will conduct detailed inspections of Orion, retrieve data recorded on board during flight that was not necessarily all telemetered to the ground, and we will reuse components such as the high-precision avionics and retrieve information from the payloads that we flew. It will also allow NASA to demonstrate its recovery techniques and procedures in anticipation of future crew flights. Our fourth and final bucket of objectives is what I like to call bonus objectives, but they're additional objectives that are not critical to flying astronauts on subsequent missions, but are important, including engaging the public. A number of our additional objectives in this fourth and final bucket include a demonstration of other capabilities and aspects of the launch vehicle, the spacecraft, the overall integrated systems and recovery plans. Some of the flight test objectives will include certification of Orion's optical navigation system, deploying 10 CubeSat payloads riding in the Orion stage adapter, operating the technology and biological payloads that will be flown inside the crew module on Orion, and collecting imagery throughout and sharing that with the public as far as outreach and just sharing the mission as we experience it all together. So now that I've summarized our primary objectives, I'll tell you a little bit more about the planning dates that Jim outlined earlier. So for the August 29th launch attempt, the launch window open time would be at 8:33 a.m. Eastern for a 2-hour window. That would be for a long class mission. The duration would be 42 days, and the targeted splashdown date would be on October the 10th. The September 2nd date would have a window open at 12:48 p.m. Eastern. Again, a 2-hour launch window. The mission duration is a long class mission, but it's a 39-day duration mission landing on October 11th. And then the attempt on September 5th would have a launch window open at 5:12 p.m. Eastern, and that is a 1.5-hour launch window. Again, a long class mission, 42 days, landing on October 17th. One thing that I will note about our launch attempts in that same time frame is that we do have a cutout or eclipse from August 30th through September 1st. So that's a 3-day period where just due to the sun and earth alignment as Orion is headed outbound on the trajectory, we're unable to produce power just because the spacecraft would be in the shadow of the earth. So we would have that 3-day cutout due to an eclipse constraint. So now that I've covered that, I'll note that our mission planners have started to build timelines, detailed timelines for each of these, and we'll provide another opportunity to talk through those in more detail in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure that many of you have listened to the mission overview that has been posted online. And I'll note that that was based on a short class mission, and we're looking at long class missions here for the attempts that Jim has outlined earlier. But as was stated earlier, the milestones and the objectives remain the same, regardless of which opportunity we have. In order to enter our target orbit about the moon, there are 4 major burns after the translunar injection, which commits us from a Earth orbit to a lunar intercept. The 4 major burns are paired, so there's a pair of maneuvers that allow us to enter the distant retrograde orbit. The first is called the outbound powered flyby, and the second is called the distant retrograde insertion. After we've coasted for the planned duration in the distant retrograde orbit, we have another paired maneuver sequence that puts us on an Earth return trajectory and allows us to depart the distant retrograde orbit. The first is called the distant retrograde departure, and then the second is called the return powered flyby. And you'll hear more details about those as we share more mission planning activities in the next couple of weeks. Those maneuvers that I just highlighted are outlined on the mission maps that are already posted online. The mission availability calendar, just in terms of which days we can launch, are also posted online. And you can see where we have opportunities for either a short class or a long class mission, depending on the day that we fly. I want to reinforce what Jim said earlier about this being a test flight. If you look at the objectives that I outlined a few minutes ago, you can see where our priorities are. We expect our teams to learn throughout the course of the mission, and our primary objectives essentially include that we complete the mission as planned in order to get to reentry, where we will test the heat shield and recover the spacecraft. Our team is prepared to adapt along the way if we encounter challenges outside the mission, and there may be some activities as part of the overall conduct of the mission that we may elect to not complete, including in that 4th bucket of objectives, our bonus objectives, if we have to deviate from the mission as planned. So we may have fewer opportunities to do things like certify the optical navigation system or imagery objectives or payload data takes. But Part of my role is to support the team throughout these critical decision points in the course of the mission, including assessment of the situation or circumstances that we may find ourselves in the course of the mission that go beyond established or pre-decided criteria or the flight rules that we've outlined, and we spent extensive time planning ahead of the mission. And then if we need to, we'll work through those situations and decide what the appropriate course of action is. I can say from personal experience as a flight director, and including the Exploration Flight Test 1 mission, which was the maiden flight test of Orion, that the next several weeks will be a flurry of activity as we finalize our mission planning and prepare the rocket and the spacecraft for these launch attempts. Launch day is going to be here before we know it. While we continue to work through each task step by step, today's anniversary is a good reminder of what a privilege it is to be a part of a mission like this. It's not just the Artemis 1 mission, but it's a bigger picture of returning to the moon and preparing to go to Mars. And we try not to lose sight of that in our day-to-day work. So with that, I just want to thank you, and I'll turn it back to Catherine.
Thank you, Mike. We'll now go to our question and answer session. You can enter *1 on your phone to be entered into the question queue at any time. Your phones are on mute now, and the operator will open your mic when we're ready and close your mic after you ask your question. We please ask that you stick to one question and identify to whom your question is directed.
If we have time, we will allow reporters to ask a
second question. So the first question will be from Marcia Dunn of Associated Press.
Hi, good morning. I'm wondering, eclipses aside, is it generally every 3 days that you could take a stab at launching Artemis? What's the value of a long class versus a short class mission? And lastly, just one mannequin on board? Thanks.
That was 3.
Cliff, do you want me to take a crack at that one? You can back me up.
Sure. Go ahead, Mike.
Let's see. So I'll start with your last question, Marcia. There are 3 mannequins on board. There's Helga, Zohar, and then Commander Munikin Campos. They are gathering flight test data throughout for us. The value of a short class versus a long class mission, we will get as much mission and as much data as we can out of whatever opportunity presents itself to us. So we can get what we need for the objectives that I've outlined for either class of mission, and that is why we have the priorities in place. We will take the opportunity in front of us where we have a good opportunity to launch safely and successfully. So we don't have a strong preference whether it's a short or a long class mission. What Jim outlined earlier is really that from a schedule and a preparation standpoint of the flight hardware, the schedule just happens to put us in a posture where we think we've got a couple of opportunities for a long class mission in late August, early September, if the work that Cliff outlined occurs as planned. In terms of attempts, we have various constraints, and depending on whether we've loaded the vehicle with cryo or not and how much cryo we've used will determine largely what the next attempt is. But once we've loaded the vehicle, it's a minimum of 48 hours to the next attempt. It could be as much as 72 hours. If we have not loaded the vehicle with cryo, depending on the team's readiness and the reason that we scrubbed or decided to not tank, we could turn around and potentially go as early as the next day, presuming that there wasn't a performance or an eclipse constraint that was staring at us. So it's a fairly complicated answer. It is feasible that if there's not a hard cutout like the eclipse constraints that I outlined, that we could go the next day. If it was, just horrible weather at the Cape and we decided to not even tank, it's possible we could go the very next day. But if we decided to tank and we needed to replenish just hydrogen, then it's 48 hours. If we needed to replenish hydrogen and oxygen, it could be as much as 72 hours. So it's not a singular answer, but there are many variables in place, and depending on how far we got into the countdown, the reason that we decided to not go that day, whether it was range, an issue with the range, or a ground system that we could quickly resolve, depending on whether it was a technical issue with the vehicle that we needed more time to investigate, or depending on whether it was just simply we loaded the vehicle and things stacked against us, and we just didn't get off in the planned window. That will determine the next attempt. So I hope I answered your question there. And Cliff, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I don't, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. And Marcia, we do have more information about each of those mannequins on our media resources page for Artemis at nasa.gov/Artemis1. Our next question is from Bill Harwood of CBS News.
Yeah, hey guys, thanks very much. I don't know who this is for, probably for Jim. I mean, would you attempt launch period 25 if you only had 2 launch opportunities? And I'm asking that to make sure, given the cutouts and the SLS recycle options, given the fueling constraints, you've got 3 if the 29th stays in play, but if it doesn't, I'm guessing you would only have 2. And would you press ahead if you only had 2 opportunities? And finally, could someone explain the flight termination system battery and whatever clock starts ticking? I'm curious when that clock starts and how many days it gives you. Thanks.
Bill always has good questions, man. They're always good.
Thanks, Bill. I'm going to let Cliff answer your second question first, because it kind of goes to your first question. So, Cliff, you want to talk about the FTS batteries?
Sure. So what we have to do is there's an ordnance connects that'll be finalized, and then we get into the actual testing. So when we do that FTS testing, we have testing to do that's required 15 days prior to launch, and that starts the clock. Right now, we are working with the range to see, and the SLS program to see if we can extend that somewhat, because we do have some challenges right now as we complete that test and all our final closeout work, particularly in the core stage intertank, to get to a point where we're ready to roll out. So we're working that with the range through the launch director and the SLS program. There's also another requirement that says you should have launched by 20 days after you do that test. And again, with our 3 attempts, we do have issues with that timing. And again, that's being worked with the range at this point. And so that's kind of our plan right now. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Catherine, just to answer his first question, would we go with the 2 opportunities if that's all we had? I think there's a big decision point before we leave the VAB that obviously Cliff has and all the programs weigh into of are we ready to go? What's our feasibility because of that clock? If we're out at the pad already and we had 2 launch opportunities, I would think we have cycles on the vehicle every time we roll out and back, so we want to maximize the opportunities that we had, especially with the opportunity to get a longer class mission. So there's steps all along the way, Bill, that I think we'll look at. And Catherine and the team have a really good plan at briefings running up to launch with a lot of the agency leadership, a lot of the other folks that are doing the work. So we'll have opportunities to share that with you as you go. But obviously the first big step is rolling out, and that sets the clock on the FTS battery. So thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, Jim. Our next question is from Elizabeth Howell of Space.com.
Hello, this is probably following up from Bill's and a couple of other questions, but I really wanted to zero out on the decision process to roll back to the pad. How far does the rocket need to be? Like, what kind of test does it need to pass? How far do you need to be in terms of making sure it's ready? What kind of things is it supposed to be passing, I suppose, before you can even get it out to the pad to make sure that it's going to be working?
Do you want me to answer that, Jim?
Yes, please, Cliff.
Yeah. So we have what we call our OMRSs, or our operation maintenance requirements, that define all our test requirements for the entire vehicle. And all of those will be the ones that require us to get into our closeouts in the different volumes will be tested. So we have a strict set of requirements that we'll be looking at and testing to say that the vehicle is ready. Right now, we would close out all the volumes of the vehicle, and what that would include would be basically the Orion, the core stage forward skirt, the engine section, and then all those volumes would be closed before we got into our flight termination system testing. And then once we do our flight termination system testing, and again, all this is defined by requirements that the programs have come together on and approved and said, you must do these things. We would get into our core stage intertank closeouts, which comes after FTS, because that's where all the main work with the flight termination system is occurring. And then we would button up the door on the core stage intertank. At that point, we would be ready to roll.
Thanks, Cliff. Our next question is from Kristen Fisher of CNN.
Hey, guys. Can y'all hear me? Sorry. There we go. Having an issue with my mute button. Sorry. Okay. So given some of the scheduling issues during that first wet dress rehearsal surrounding the Axiom 1 flight, I'm just wondering how NASA intends to handle scheduling surrounding the Crew 5 mission if the first Artemis launch misses this first window. Can you just kind of walk through which mission gets priority? Thanks.
Yeah, let me start, and then I'll let Mike weigh in. You know, we obviously, before Crew 5 slipped, we were working closely with them, trying to help them manage things around cutouts that they have for Soyuz, how they do the crew handovers. So we work closely together at my level with Kathy Leaders. Mike Serafin coordinates with Steve Stitch and commercial crew. So we're going to put the same thing into practice if we end up going towards the end of September. Obviously, we have to, as I mentioned, balance their needs on ISS versus when we're trying to launch and the risks that we have of some of the limited life things that are out there for us. So, Mike, you want to add to that, please?
Jim, you said it well. Probably the only thing I would emphasize is that we keep the communication channels open, regardless of who is on the range in the proximate time frame that we are looking to attempt either a wet dress or launch attempt. So, the range schedule is something that we look at routinely, and then when we see the potential for a convergence of activities, we start understanding that other program or that other customer's drivers and constraints. We share our drivers and constraints with them, and from there, we work together to find a solution that works best for everyone. And if there is just a situation where we find ourselves where we both have a need at the same time frame, then it gets elevated to folks like Jim for a decision.
Thank you. Our next question is from Eric Berger of Ars Technica.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for doing this. First, a quick question. I think this would put the rollout on August 18th. If you do target the 29th, just confirm that. And then let's say you do get to the pad, and then due to weather or some minor technical issues you find during countdown, you scrub those 3 opportunities. Do you have to roll back to the VAB to do the flight termination system work, or can that be serviced on the pads? In other words, if you don't make a launch by September 5th, would your next attempt have to move to launch period 27? Thanks.
So this is Cliff. So yes, in terms of the August 18th, that would be our targeted rollout date at this point for a 29th of August attempt. And if we did have to roll back for the flight termination system, because we didn't get off the pad, we would have to go into the inner tank and do some additional testing to reset that clock. There is the possibility with that we could potentially hit the end of 26, launch period 26, but that would be a real challenge for us. I'll be honest with you, but we would certainly give it our best shot at that point. And Mike, I don't know if you might want to add something there.
The only thing I would add, Cliff, is that the FTS work is something that we need to do in the VAB.
Yeah, good point, Mike. We do have to roll back to do that work.
Thank you. Next question will be from Stephen Clark of Spaceflight Now.
Thanks. Eric actually asked my question about the rollout date, but I'll follow up on that. When, before rollout, how soon before actual leaving the VAB do you complete that end-to-end testing? Is it the 17th? Is it the 16th of August? When is that date? Thanks.
So that test will be completed around the 11th, 12th of August if we were to roll out on the 18th.
Thank you. All right, our next question is from David Curley of Discovery Channel.
Thanks very much. Mike Serafin, can you talk a little bit about the heat shield? This is kind of unprecedented. What are you worried about, and how confident are you that it will work? Thank you.
Yeah, David, that's a great question.
Wait. It's unprecedented. No, it's not unprecedented. We sent 8 Apollo missions to the moon. What do you mean it's unprecedented? Stop using that word. That doesn't mean what you think it means.
Obviously, the heat shield is it's a safety critical piece of hardware, and it is something that absolutely has to work to protect the crew and the spacecraft during the reentry phase. So there are a number of things that we've learned, and this is a new design. It's an ablative material. It's a proprietary material called AVCoat, and it's in a block design. Unlike the Apollo heat shield design, this is built in blocks of ablative material. And there are things that we've talked about from an engineering perspective and have some amount of test data on, like the possibility for hotspots or erosion in or around the gaps between the blocks. The team has spent considerable time and effort working the appropriate thickness and the appropriate gapping between the blocks. But there is the potential that, because we can't test this fully on the ground, that through the reentry flight test that we could see something that we didn't anticipate. For those reasons, the vehicle is heavily instrumented, and we intend to gather plenty of data about the performance of it, and we'll use that to inform not only our flight readiness for Artemis II, but also some of the margins and uncertainties that we're carrying on this first flight, and potentially buy those down on future flights. The other thing on this mission that is a little unique is that we're doing a skip reentry profile. So we're actually going to dip into the Earth's atmosphere not once but twice, and that skip reentry profile is something that needs to be controlled from a reentry perspective. Our attitude control system needs to maintain the heat shield forward at all times as we perform that skip reentry, and then do it in such a way that we don't overstress the vehicle from a aerodynamic and structural loading standpoint, but also that we don't come in so shallow that we literally don't get aerodynamic capture and skip back out of the Earth's atmosphere and just kind of pass the Earth. So there's a precision reentry corridor. There's attitude control that's required to successfully perform the skip reentry, and then there's the the aerodynamic heating and aerodynamic structural loading on the vehicle, that are all things that we're looking at. And we've got, again, a heavily instrumented vehicle to monitor all of those things and all the conditions that we're looking at.
Thank you. And we have more information about the skip re-entry on the Media Resources tab on the Artemis 1 page of NASA.gov as well. Our next question is from Ken Kramer of Space Up Close.
Oh, hi. Thank you for doing this, and good luck with everything. I'd like to follow up on flight termination system questions from several other colleagues. Can you please explain why it's only 20 days from the rollout, and describe the work you need to do in the VAB and how long it takes? And I'd like to know also, I thought the shuttle was out there longer, so how does the flight termination system for Artemis compare to the shuttle? Thanks.
So, Mike, I don't know if you want to take this. I don't have history with the shuttle flight termination system.
Yeah, I would be speculating if I gave an answer to the comparison of the shuttle program. But my sense is we had access at the pad, but we would need to confirm that. We could follow up with you afterward. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, Ken, maybe we can get with you offline on this and get a little deeper expertise for that to help answer that question for you. But from our standpoint, I believe the 20 days, and again, the launch director is the primary interface with the Eastern Range on the FTS system, is batteries and reliability and those types of things. But I think it would probably be best if we took that question offline to the launch director.
Thanks, Ken. We'll follow up with you on that one. Our next question is from Daryl Majima of Dwarf. Hi, Daryl. Can you hear us?
This is for Daniel.
Hi, Daryl. Your mic is open. All right. It sounds like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty. Daryl, if you're able to rejoin the queue, just press *1 and we'll come back to you. Actually, that looks like that's all the questions that we have in the queue. Daryl, if you need to, you can follow up with us by email if you have a particular question. So thank you all for joining us today. You can listen to a replay of this teleconference online by visiting the Media Resources tab at nasa.gov/Artemis-1 in about an hour. And to follow along with the updates for Artemis 1, please go to the Artemis blog at blogs.nasa.gov/Artemis. Thanks again, and that will conclude our call.
What?
That concludes today's conference. Thank you for participating. You may disconnect at this time.
What? What? To be fair, those questions weren't bad. They weren't bad. Some of them were a little bit of those gotcha questions. You know I love those. Like the guy that asked, if you miss your first 3 launch attempts, does that mean you have to use the 4th launch attempt?
Go and throttle up.
Yes, that's what that means. No, we're gonna skip to the 5th one. Hell yeah, it is what it is, dude. I'm not gonna say that they can't ask questions like that because, yeah, but it's quite annoying. It's quite annoying when people exploit NASA's openness to then go write an article about why NASA is not good. Yeah, that's really annoying. That really pisses me off. Yeah. Yeah, those gotcha questions. Yeah, You know I love those. Yeah, Air Force, I know. He's talking about the rollback. But I still don't like those gotcha questions, man. But, Air Force, I will say this. I'm not going to say that they can't ask him. You can ask whatever the hell you want. You can ask them what's their favorite soft drink if you want. I don't really care. Ask whatever you want. You know, I don't like people that draw conclusions that ain't there. It's disrespectful to the craft. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, they can ask whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? I think what Eric's question and then a couple of other questions are pertaining to is the fact that, and if I had to guess, that Ken Kramer's question about the flight termination systems probably has to do with the fact that the shuttle has that rotating service structure. Shuttle had the RSS. With the RSS, you could get at anywhere on the stack almost, except for like the backside, except for the has-gas vent. With the whole rotating service structure, you could pretty much get at the entire stack. SLS does not have that luxury. So, if you look at this picture of the shuttle has this whole service structure here, which is basically a gigantic rotating clean room that rotates on the biggest kingpin you've ever seen. That kingpin is like 200 feet tall. And this whole thing used to rotate in, and it could grab the shuttle's payload bay doors with those orange brackets and open them up so they could put payload in. If you notice, this also has a bunch of service gantries on the outside so they could get at different things. And it definitely has access hatches for the inner tank, which is where the flight termination system is. Jeff Faust had a clear take on that question and response. Let me see. Interesting point from the briefing. If they roll out in August but don't launch by September 5th, they have to roll back to the VAB and service the flight termination system. May not be able to complete that rollout in time for the next launch window, September 20th, October 4th. Yeah, Air Force, I see it. Yeah, interesting thing to kind of make up. Yeah, he said that would be a lofty goal, but also at the same time, you know exactly what's going to happen there. I can see the Ars article coming from a mile away. Well, you know, SLS is bad. You know, they have to roll it all the way back to the VAB. Like, you can tell it's SDS1 because of the way it is. That's what I mean, dude. And once again, it's a personal gripe. I'm not saying that they shouldn't ask that questions, and I'm not saying that he should stop reporting or anything like that. It's just, yeah, kind of take that a little personal. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know, dude. You're probably more qualified to say whether I should or shouldn't than me. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Jade. I love any SLS, Jade. You come out of the woodwork. You're like, hey, what's up? SLS GSE ditch pad access for cost reasons, so it's ironic people are attacking it for that. Yeah. Guilty as charged. You know what? I'll probably just put this up here. Yeah, see, with this, there's no service structure on SLS. Now, the funny thing is that the Saturn V had something to solve this problem. So this would be the Saturn V mobile service structure. Saturn V MSS was, they built this freaking chonker of a freaking vehicle. They built that thing to address this exact reason. That structure, that big honking thing to the right, it was there to arm the flight termination systems. So they'd roll the pad out, they roll the vehicle out to the pad totally inerted, and they would move that thing to the pad with the crawler transporter, and they would use it to arm the flight termination systems, and then it would back off with the crawler transporter. But yeah, that freaking thing, they didn't want to do that, I guess. Don't have money. The Saturn V mobile service structure was a last-minute band-aid, too. It wasn't originally planned to be mobile. Yeah, hey, but it worked. Yep. It's a good idea. That's not... I mean... Hey, You're going to run into this stuff. SLS could do with one of those. That would be pretty good. I mean, look at it. It's a freaking monster. It is a monster of a vehicle. Jade, I love how they blatantly just lifted this right here, this whole gantry and service elevator thingamajigger, that is lifted from Slick 37. That's the same design, which is kind of funny. This is basically the Slick 37 service structure. It's pretty straightforward. But anyway. Yeah. Now, like, fellas, here's the thing, man. Yeah. I'm not, like I said, personal gripe with reporters, dude. I don't like how they use NASA's openness to just then dump on NASA. It pisses me off. But maybe I shouldn't let it bother me as much, you know what I'm saying? Been really trying not to lately, you know? But yeah, interesting questions nonetheless. I mean, not saying SLS couldn't do without one of these. That would be, these things, that would be quite nice. Maybe they'll have one for SLS Block 1B when they have a bigger payload area at the top. Yeah, Squish, I'm not sure. I'm glad the mobile service structure is gone, even if it's a pain. It's very duplicative when you have the VAB. I guess. Yeah, Farm, it's not necessarily about that, dude. They'd need 2 of them. They'd cost an extra $500 million. It would take additional 3 years to get them ready. Yeah, no, that's Jim. It's yeah. The high bay is taking that role. Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't think that this thing is a bad idea. You know? If it did, it'd be a major line item in the budget. Yeah. But hey, you know what, dudes? You know what? Screw being down in the dumps. We got a launch date, baby. We got a launch date. We got a launch date on July 20th. Nice. So you're just gonna take it like a minion? Nah, Farm. Dude, Farm, I have a theory about this stuff. And the theory is basically this, dude. Like, I honestly don't mind if the government's going to spend a ton of money on NASA. I really don't care. Spend all you want. As long as you get something done. Like, you know, a lot of people out there hate the F-35. They say it's way over budget, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you tried designing one vehicle for 3 service branches. And then tell me about $1 trillion budget. I get it. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. You're not gonna satisfy brass like that. That's not gonna work. The vehicle, they're basically 3 different vehicles at this point. The F-35 A, B, and C. They're 3 different things. I get it. I understand. However, you know, like, look, F-35s are getting made. They've made 800 of those things. As long as something gets done, dude. As long as something gets done, I don't really care. You want to line your pockets? I don't give a frick. As long as something gets done. I mean, I'd prefer you didn't do that, but hey. People in hell want ice water, you know what I'm saying? I don't really mind if this stuff is expensive. Like, I'm dead serious about that. Like, I prefer it not to be, obviously. You know? But, like, with NASA stuff, man, build another mobile launcher. There's no way it's going to cost $1 billion. Build 3 of them, like Saturn did. Build that fixed service, or the mobile service tower. Build all of it. And there's no way this stuff could cost that much. You know? This thing, we got the difficult parts figured out. You see this big orange thing right there? That's the difficult part. We got the difficult parts figured out. This part, and then technically the spacecraft. Yeah, but 5-day rollback is better than the MSS. Yeah, I mean, I guess. I suppose. But Jade, look at it. Look at how awesome it is. VAB access is better. Look at how awesome it is. Like, if you get, like, I get it. This is a redundant capability of the VAB. But if this is going to make it, if this is going to make SLS's, like, if this is going to decrease the rollback like, the likeliness of a rollback for something like SLS, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's do it. Build the damn thing. Let's go. Like, this isn't complicated to make. It really isn't. It's nowhere near as complicated as this thing. And nowhere near as complicated as this thing. This is just a metal tower. It's a metal tower with some elevators on it. That's it. That's all it is. And it's built on a mobile launcher chassis. It's literally an ML. That's what it is. If you look, it's an ML with no plating on it because it's not a launch pad, right? I just joined. What's the most important points you missed? Well, the good news is, Laserman, that we have a date. Not you and me. I mean, no, not you and me. We have a date for launch for Artemis 1. It's going to target August 29th at about 8 in the morning. About 8 in the morning. That's the big one. NASA is planning on launching August 29th at about, I think they said 8:30 if I'm remembering correctly. And they're going to target a 42-day long-duration distant retrograde orbit for Orion, which is really cool. I'm really happy that a long-duration mission is what coincides with that date. That's really good.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hey, Perky. I'm debating on driving to Florida for that one. I might need to get in the truck. Perky, I might need to get in the truck. I might need to get in the truck and drive. No, I'm not flying on an airplane again. Got COVID at the freaking airport. Hey, we're not doing that. I'll drive. I'll drive my big truck that gets like 13 miles to the gallon. I still don't care. Worth it. Worth it. Park, you know, Matoro's going? Yep. Can we get a date for you and me? Nope. Sorry, Poker. Taken already. Your birthday is 8/31, so Florida, here I come for a birthday launch. Yep. Can you go over exactly what a distant retrograde orbit is around the moon? Sure, Shortline. Do you want pictures, or do you want me to just tell you? How do you get used to long road trips? Long road trips? To me, I just can't do them. Driving is my zen, dude. Driving is zen for me. I love driving. I love driving places. I love the destination. I love looking out the windows and seeing stuff. My family went on a lot of road trips when I was younger. A lot of road trips. We drove everywhere. This is like 25 years ago, but Nico, thanks for the resub, buddy. Might be worth it. Really cool debut launch versus likelihood of multi-day delays on the first run. I bet you love traffic. I don't mind traffic, Ando. Okay, that's a lie. I really don't. Like, if I'm on a road trip, dude, traffic happens. But if I'm commuting somewhere, if I'm just trying to go get lunch or something, yeah, traffic's annoying. I feel the same way about driving. This weekend, family is leaving on a road trip down the West Coast. There you go, Nico. You can drive you drive on some PCH, or is it just your family going? I love PCH. I drove tough enough up PCH to Vandenberg. One of the most legendary road trips I've ever taken. Yeah, exactly, Perky. That's the key. If you're going from Boston to Florida, Perk, you know. If you're going from Boston to Florida, all you got to do is you got to leave at like 1, 2 in the morning, and that'll get you through New York at like 5, 6 in the morning, and you'll be clear of Philly by 8 in the morning. You're gonna miss rush hour traffic. Sometimes it really kind of depends. Like if it's in the summer, you probably want to leave at like 11 p.m. Start your road trip at 11 p.m. Go through New York, Philly, the entire Northeast corridor in the middle of the night, and get to D.C. by 8 in the morning. And then you're clear. Then it's just a straight shot down to Florida once you get below the Mason-Dixon line. Boston is north of New York? Yeah, by about 3 to 4 hours of driving. Yeah, it's a good ways north and east, actually. We're way east of New York. I'm used to driving from North Carolina to New Hampsters. Perky, what part of New Hampsters? For me, driving is kind of dangerous. It's so relaxing for me, I kind of fall asleep. Yeah, Zumbrius, I get what you mean. But I can... Guys, driving is like streaming for me. I can just do it. I mean, the last leg of Route 154, I did a 12-hour stint from Detroit to Boston. That's like 1,000 miles or something. I belted that out. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every second of it, man. It was great. Bradford, Warner area, family endearing. Oh, okay. All right. That's the lakes, if I'm remembering right. I was up there a couple years ago. Bypass New York, or it adds too much to trip length? Well, okay. All right. If we're going to talk road trips. Energy drinks and caffeine definitely help, Shaw. Couple cups of coffee, definitely do it. So, Arifli City, yeah, well, farm, I'm about to move out of the city, dude. See, I live in this gray blob right here. I'm moving to this green blob out here. I'm moving to see where it's green and it's not gray? Yeah, that's where I'm going. Squall, she's a big one. She's a big one. Yeah. Like I said, the last leg of Route 154 was from Detroit. I went all the way around here.
Discovery.
We went past Cedar Point. We went through Cleveland, past Erie, Pennsylvania. And then the highway goes up to Buffalo. And then it goes past the Finger Lakes. And it kind of follows this valley right here. See the valley? Follows that valley all the way to Albany. And then Albany goes, from there the road kind of goes, it crosses the Hudson River. And then there's a lot of mountains right here, so it kind of goes up and around and to Boston like that. 1,200 kilometers, man. I drove it in one shot. It's a great drive. That's a really fun drive, actually. Joey, 7-month resub. Thanks, man. So that's... I thought it was 1,000 miles, but it's about 800. Yeah, belted that stint out, no problem. And then before that, Route 154, we went from Veneta through Joplin, through Springfield, through St. Louis to Indy, and then I spent the night in Indy. I belted that out in one shot. And then before that, I did Santa Fe to OKC. Santa Fe is pretty cool city. It passed through Texas right there to OKC like that. Belting out 500-mile trips a day during Route 154, no problem. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. Squall, there's so much to see in this damn country. There's so much to see, especially when you're out here. North Carolina to KSP is 8.5 hours for you, easy peasy. Yeah, Perky, I'm about double that, because double the distance. But yeah, if you want to go around New York, here's what you do. So you could either use the Cross Bronx Parkway, which is that road right there. See that? You come in over here through Pelham Bay, and then you go through here, and then you go through the Bronx, which is right here. That's where the Yankees play. See the Yankees? Yankees. Pretty janky to me, if whatever. And then you go through the Cross Bronx Parkway, and then you get to the GW. From the GW, you go to the Jersey Turnpike. Now, there's another way. There is another way to go. If you don't feel like going through New York City, you can go up here. See, I'm coming down the road through Greenwich, Connecticut. Then you go through Port Chester, and then you go through White Plains, and then you take the Tappan Zee Bridge, which it's since been redone. But yeah, you take the Tappan Zee. That's a cool bridge. The old one was a piece of junk, though. If you know, you know. And then you can take that, to Mawa and then go south from there. And then you get back on the Jersey Turnpike and then blast down here. You go around Edison, Princeton, Trenton, you go around Philly, and then you cross right here in Delaware. It's a nice bridge, but it was kind of nervous. So from there, you can actually take... If I wanted to view the launch in person, where would I go? Are there viewing areas? Jetty Park. Jetty Park or Playa Linda Beach is probably the best stuff. Best ways to put it. They're best ways to see it. When you get to Newark, Delaware, right here, it's this road right here. You can get off the main highway and take this smaller highway right here. I used to make this drive all the time when I lived in Florida, guys, so that's why I know it. Actually, I think it's this one. That guy right there. And so, check this out. If we zoom out, there's Chesapeake Bay. That's what this is right here. So there's two ways that you can take. The fast way is to go through Baltimore, go through Camelot, and then go down and around through Fredericksburg, Virginia, and then shoot through Richmond and go all the way down here. That's the quick way, but it's only the quick way if you don't take it during the day, because Baltimore is a hellhole, traffic sucks there, and don't even get me started on Camelot. 'Tis a silly place. On second thought, let's not go to Camelot. 'Tis a silly place. The other way, it does take longer because you're not on big highways, but you go through Dover, you get to see the track, which is really cool. There's a NASCAR track on the highway. There it is. Yeah, baby. Short track. NASCAR short track. And then you take this highway all the way down, and you can actually, you go past Wallops, which is actually really cool. That highway turns into a country road, which is basically just a long, straight road. And it takes you right past Wallops I was gonna say Wallops Air Force Base, but that ain't an Air Force Base no more. You go right by the launch pads. There's Chincoteague Island over there on the right. And see that road right there? That's the only road that goes up the spine of this part of... That's the only road that goes up here. That road that goes through the spine of, like... I think this is... There's a word for this peninsula. I forget what it's called. Delmarva. That's what it's called, John. Thank you. Yeah. It's like a combination of everything. And then that road goes down. Now, Squall, this is cool. That road goes down to one of the longest bridges in the world. So check this out. You go across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, which is unreal. It is an insanely long bridge that goes all the way across Chesapeake Bay. And the cool part about that bridge is that halfway through Chesapeake Bay, it goes into a tunnel. And then comes out the other side. And then you go into another tunnel. And then it comes out the other side again. It's like 14 miles long or something. That's a really cool bridge because, like, when you're out here, you really barely can even see the shorelines. So it looks like just a road going through water. It looks like some Waterworld stuff. 21, if I recall correctly. I think you're right, John. I haven't been over it in a really long time. So, I know what people are going to ask. Why does it go into a tunnel? Actually, if you really want to know, the reason is the Cold War, long story short. Yeah, it's a really awesome bridge. Really, really freaking cool. But, yeah, there's tunnels halfway through. And the reason why they put tunnels there is because the Navy's biggest base on the East Coast is right over here. And so, Squall, they build aircraft carriers over here at Newport News. You can see they're building one in this picture right now. That's an aircraft carrier. Or at least the bottom of one. Look at all the subcomponents. See them all? They put it together like a giant erector set. They just build the pieces and then they take... That's what that big gantry crane does. It just picks the pieces up and puts the ship together once they lay the keel. Really cool stuff, actually. They build all kinds of other things in here. Submarines. All kinds of different ships. Whatever. But that's the... Oh, that's a, what is that, a barge for power or something? I don't know. That's all there. And then, so check this out. That's the small part, believe it or not. Look at this. The scale here, like, I'm not trying to brag or anything. It's just the scale here is ridiculous. Like I said, this is the U.S. Navy, one of the U.S. Navy's largest bases. Look at this. All right.
Discovery,
All right.
go and throttle up.
There's one of the cooler ships. There's the Mercy or the Comfort. It could be either one. Yeah. 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 Dude, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. I mean, there looks like there's some import-export over here. But Navy moors their ships there, and then there's all kinds of subcomponents down here. Or not substations. They're just shipyard annexes that do all kinds of stuff. Like that that thing is actually pretty cool. Hey, Shrub, 64 months. That thing is pretty cool. John, you know what that is. I know you know what that is. Yeah, the degaussing bay, which is really cool. That's the Comfort. The Mercy is in Coronado. Thank you, Victory. My old ship on the left. Let me see. Oh, 75. There it is. Yeah, look at that thing. Now that's a nice ship. What's a degaussing bay? You know what? I'm blanking on the definition, Flykin. To be honest, I'm blanking on it. John, can you help me with degaussing? And then there's the Marines. Marines got their stuff over here. There's a couple of underway replenishment ships right there. Anti-magnetizing the ship. It changes the ship's magnetic field. Yeah, there you go. It's like, isn't it for like mines and stuff? There's all kinds of, and like Squall, look down here. There's all kinds of shipyards down here, and even one of the docks has a ship I'm particularly fond of. Well, there's 4 of them that are like that I'm particularly fond of. But yep, see, all kinds of stuff going on in here. So, oh, an LPD. Look at that. Nice. The reason why the bridge goes into a tunnel is so if the Cold War went hot, right, the Navy wouldn't get blocked in. If you notice, all the bridges that are east of this shipyard, that one right there, even that one right there, they all go into tunnels.
Hey.
Hello?
Did I buy chocolate when we went to the grocery store last time?
No.
Damn it.
These all go into tunnels. I might need to go get chocolate during the break, Chad, if you catch my drift. We might need to go get some chocolate during break a little bit later. Anyway, these all go into tunnels because all the Russians would have had to have done is just hit the bridge with a ship missile, with an anti-ship missile. It collapses the bridge, and then all your ships are sitting ducks. So that's why the Chesapeake Bay Bridge goes into a tunnel twice, because they didn't want, you know, if you blow up the bridge, it's going to fall, right? It'll collapse, and then your ships get stuck in the Chesapeake Bay. So, yeah, I thought that was really neat. They go into tunnels like that because they didn't want the Russians bombing the bridges. There's an amphibious base next to the bridge in the tunnel. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I see them. There. Look at all the LCACs. Cool. Hovercrafts. The North Tunnel is shipping to Baltimore. The South is shipping for Norfolk. Today I learned. Man, even in here, look at all this stuff. There's a bunch of stuff in here. I mean, yeah, like I said, the Navy's big. Navy's big right in this area here. Very big. And then you get from here, once you get past Norfolk, doesn't matter if you're taking this road or this road, this is all pretty rural through North and South Carolina. Through Georgia, you get to go through Savannah, and then it gets a little bit hectic once you get to Jacksonville. But Jacksonville is really close to the launch pad, so that ain't too bad. All right, Sun Temple. Planning an Artemis trip. Yeah, that's what we're doing. If I was going to do it, that's how we'd do it. What's the plan today? Coolest ship ever, in your opinion? Oh, yeah. The LCS. The Littorals. That Trimaran is cool, man. Yeah, good idea. Too bad they're not doing it. Jacksonville is easy compared to ZC. Facts. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're not wrong, Perky. Yeah. The infrastructure, once you get south of the Mason-Dixon line, so this kind of imaginary line between
Discovery,
Virginia and North Carolina. Once you get right here, it starts opening up. It's not nearly as congested as the East Coast, as the Northeast corridor. It's still on the East Coast, idiot. And yeah, it's pretty much a straight shot from there. Easy peasy. Like I said, Jacksonville is the worst thing you have to go through. That's it. The only problem that you have with this kind of drive is that it gets a little bit boring through South Carolina because there's just trees. The Mason-Dixon line is between Maryland and Pennsylvania. What are you talking about? Yeah, I don't know. This line right here. You might be right. It doesn't matter. Irrelevant. But yeah, it's a hell of a road trip. Perky, this trip, if I time it right, can take me 20 hours. I've done that drive in 20 hours. I did the drive in 20 hours. I drove for like 10. Slept at a rest stop in North Carolina in the car for like 3, and then drove it again. Drove the last 8. 7 to 8. So it actually took 21 hours. 21 hours is I've done that drive. It's a fun drive. There's a lot to see. This part of the drive, despite the traffic, goes by very quickly. This part lags a little bit. Going to stream the trip, if I do it, I'm not sure. But I'll tell you what, if I was gonna do it, I don't know how, it might be a little bit hectic with moving and stuff. So, yeah, it might be a little bit hectic with the move, and then I have some other obligations and stuff that I have to, family stuff. So we'll play it by ear, but the truck, the Tough Enough is pretty much good. I would not hesitate to drive that thing down to Florida. It would make it. I know it would make it. And the wheels won't fall off. You have my word. Any drive that avoids Ohio is a good drive. Repost. Hey, check out Fort DuPont, old World War II forts. Just open to people. You can go wherever you want with no restriction. Your own viability, though. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You think Kid Rock is from the West, not a dang city boy? Nah, no, farm. No. Kid Rock's from Metro Detroit. He's from Southeast Michigan. Take it. Yeah, no. Michigan is, and I think I can comment to this a little bit. Michigan is this weird thing. Like most of that state is super freaking rural, except for Southeast Michigan. But Southeast Michigan is like Metro Detroit is where the most people are. So you get this weird kind of, it's not weird. You just get you get the standard kind of city folk and then car executive kind of thing going on down here. And then you get up to like even Flint and Lansing, and it's really, yeah, it's very rural. A lot of farms. Oh, I missed it. Yeah, I've actually driven the Stang Check 6. I have a 2008 Mustang, and I drove it from Boston all the way to Detroit, all the way up past Sault Ste. Marie to Whitefish Point. I drove the Mustang all the way up here to that parking lot and back. Great trip. The UP is insane. There's nothing there. It reminds me of my summer car. That's how empty it is. Yeah, there's a lot of farms. It's this weird kind of, like, you'll be in the city, and it's very much the city, and then you go a little ways out, and it's all farms. Like, and it just switches, like that. It's very strange. That's something that doesn't happen, like, where I'm from. That's very different. Oh. We want to go right... Where is it? Where are you? Where are you? Hey. Yeah, baby. This is a really old picture, by the way. Must be good ground. Michigan is mostly swamp. The ground is extremely fertile. It's very fertile. It's a lot of lowlands, and also it's around the lakes. It's swamp. It's kind of like Florida, but it's like northern Florida. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I like Florida, but yeah, Michigan is like that. It really only starts to get hilly when you get up there. Cold Florida. Yeah, no, Michigan is cool. It's a fun okay, all right. Obviously, Bremo and Bremo's family, I love hanging out with them. I really do. They're fun people to hang around with. You know, you really get that Midwestern thing going on, and I like that. As someone from the coast, it's very refreshing, to be 100% honest. So that's first and foremost, you know. Secondly, I might be letting, you know, that whole car thing affect my judgment, but I love going to Michigan. I really do. I won't hesitate to take time off from the stream to go visit Bremo's family and stuff, because there's a lot of car things to do in Michigan. Spoiler alert. There's a lot of car stuff. The UP has good beer. Facts. Yep. Yeah, Ernok, we're talking about road trips because we were talking about road tripping to Artemis, which is on August 29th. We have a date for the Artemis 1 mission. It's August 29th at about 8 a.m. Yeah, there's a lot of car stuff to do around here. I like, personally, I like going and seeing the automotive plants. That makes me happy. Like the Rouge, for instance. That is an insane... It's the first Gigafactory. It was the first Gigafactory. It's 100 years old. So, I always said that Tesla is taking a page out of Henry Ford's book. Henry Ford, in the late 20s, came up with the idea of just making everything himself. Build everything at one place. Build everything in one place. And that's what they did with SpaceX. I mean, they don't do it with SpaceX much anymore, but Tesla very much so. Yeah, gigafactories. Do it all in one spot. Build everything. Literally, raw materials goes in and pickup trucks come out. See? It's awesome. That's so freaking cool to me. Like, they have a bunch of ships going up the Rouge River, and they deliver iron ore. And iron ore goes in, and trucks come out the other side. God damn, that's cool. I like how on Google Maps it's just named Ferd. Yep. Ferd! There's all metal stamping, foundries and stuff. The foundries are actually down here, if you really want to know. On Zug Island over here. Fun fact, that's all reclaimed land. You know it's pretty damn funny. I heard a story about this. You could tell that the shoreline was basically right there. See where the green is? The shoreline was basically right there. And Henry Ford wanted to... What the hell is that? Huh. Train yard. Henry Ford wanted to build his foundry here. He wanted his foundry right next to the river so they could deliver iron ore very quickly and easy, and then once you get that refined iron, you just bring it up to the plant up the Rouge River, right? And I think that Detroit was like, no, don't build the foundry there, and he just told them to go frick themselves and did it anyway. Yeah, true story. Yeah, Zug Island was this. It was like that. You can see where it was Zug Island. Yeah, and he just built it anyway. Why is it so dirty? Iron ore, man. This is a refinery. This is a refinery and a foundry. This is what you need to make steel for the cars. Iron's a dirty business, man. But oh, look at it. Look at it. Oh, iron ore. They make all kinds of stuff here. Yeah. Yeah, you get byproducts and stuff, but yeah. That foundry right there, fellas. That's the steel foundry for Ford. That foundry has been on 24/7, 365 since 1929. They've never shut that foundry off. It's been going for almost 100 years. That's pretty cool. That's pretty freaking cool. That's pretty metal if you ask me. I mean, look at the building. Look at how old that building is. That foundry's been going for, what is it? 93 years? Beast mode. That's cool to me. I get it, polluted, yeah, I understand. But that's freaking cool. 100 years, non-stop. And what that does, all this stuff feeds the factory. It feeds into the big factory. It's all in one, it's all next to each other. Henry Ford had this idea 100 years ago. It's called vertical integration. And SpaceX does the same thing. To be honest, they do the same thing. Like I said, not so much anymore, but with Starship, but with Falcon 9, the engineers and the assembly line were right next to each other. If you look, the factory is right here, foundry is right there, and then Ford's world headquarters is right there. So, I don't know if you guys have ever watched Ford versus Ferrari, but if you look, you see that thing right there? That was Henry Ford's office. Well, Henry Ford II built this one, but that was his office right there. The reason why that was his office is so he could see the factory from his office. Pretty cool, huh? Notice that it's only on one side. There's nothing over here. There's just a green space. He can quite literally see the factory from his office, which is freaking cool, man. That's cool. Like, you gotta oversee it somehow. They had that figured out a long time ago. And like I said, Elon's just taking a page from his book. And if you want to see something cool, a little bit of a bonus for that here. Yeah, it's really interesting to me. Check that out. How's that for a picture? There's that office right there with my truck in front of it. That truck was designed in that building. That's where they engineered it. They engineered it in that building right there. Yep. I mean, the truck was made in Cuautitlán. This is actually kind of a rare OBS. They didn't make many of those things down in Mexico. It's actually a Mexican truck, and I don't care. It's built well. Whatever. It's fine. Fine with me. They did a good job. This truck's a freaking tank. Yep, there. I made sure that when we drove through Detroit that we stopped here and I took a picture. Oh, that's cool, Grapes. 6 shot. Yep, I took that picture in that parking lot right there. This parking lot. See? That's Ford's world headquarters, man. I thought that was really cool. Actually, to be honest, all of this is Ford's world headquarters. They just kept expanding and kept building more buildings. All this is Ford. You can tell it's Ford because of the way it is. I don't know what gave it away. Something like that, Flatgate. Oh, yeah. Would you say it's built Ford tough? Yep. Dude, that truck is a tank. Sweet Potato, I know you're newer. You're a newer viewer, and that's cool. I appreciate it. Thanks for sticking with me. I drove that truck 4,000 miles. 4,000 miles. I drove it from Compton. I bought it from Hoonigan in Compton over here. And the reason why it's not 4,000 miles from here to Boston. I took it on a shakedown cruise that was longer than most road trips up to Vandenberg, just so I could see the launch pads. I drove the truck to Lompoc Surf, which is right there. It's a train station, and it's about as close as you can get to the launch pads. I could see SpaceX's launch pad. There's Slick 4 and Slick 3 right there. Drove it all the way up. And then we drove it back down PCH through Santa Barbara, back to LA, which, I'll be honest, that drive from here to here is one of the prettiest drives I've ever taken. And then we were staying in Long Beach, and then from there I drove it through Inland Empire. The fuel filter clogged in San Bernardino, and I actually parked it at a viewer's house and fixed it in his garage. A viewer was super nice to me. That's YGBSM. He was very, very nice to me. They let us stay in their house. They let us stay in their house. I fixed the fuel filter. I dropped the fuel tank on that truck in his garage, and he was like, "Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care." I'm like, "Okay." And I put a new fuel pump and a fuel filter in it, and then we drove it through Cajon Pass to Las Vegas. And then we spent the night in Vegas with a buddy that I know that lives there. And then I drove it to the Grand Canyon. I drove it to Mather Point in Flagstaff. And I proposed to Brimo at the Grand Canyon. And then we drove it from there to Four Corners, drove it through Utah, up here to Four Corners, and then from there we went to Santa Fe, and then through to OKC. The truck, a wheel fell off in Veneta, Oklahoma, near Joplin, Missouri. I had it fixed there. We spent the night there, and then we drove it across Missouri, through St. Louis. We saw the Gateway Arch. It was at night, but we still saw it. And then to Indy, I parked the truck at IMS, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then through to Detroit, and then from Detroit to Boston. Took like a week and a half. It was one of the gnarliest things I've ever done, and the proposal part was pretty freaking cool. Been hearing the same. What's that? What have you been hearing? SpaceX's Hawthorne facility is reportedly being wound down. Yeah, all they got to do is make Falcon 9 upper stages. Of course it is. But see, Forge, it's important to know that SpaceX is retaining their technical personnel. They're just moving they're paying to move all the engineers at the new facilities. But yeah. You need to take a summer and hit all 48 states doing something on the stream in each. That would be cool, man. I would do it. I got to get the truck to Florida. The truck has been California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma for a good while, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts. Now we gotta go down the East Coast. So Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. We gotta get through there so we can nail all those states, and then we gotta go through here. I gotta get Kentucky, West Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi. We gotta get it to Florida. I will drive it down there one of these days. Take it with a grain of salt, but I've been hearing that Hawthorne will only produce Falcon 9 first and second stage, plus Merlin engines and Falcon 9 fairings. Raptor production will be fully moved to McGregor, and every other design and manufacturing related to Starship will be done at a facility near Giga, Texas. Yeah, Forge. Sounds about right. Next step is to drive it to Hawaii, possibly next month. Well, like I said, the reason why we're talking about road trips is because we have a date for the Artemis 1 launch. It's tentatively scheduled for August 29th at 8 a.m. Rollout will be on the 18th. Why do you all avoid Colorado? I don't know why you're damn scared of the mountains, Flatlanders. Well, I drove the truck through a mountain range. 2 mountain ranges. To be like 100%. Yeah. Project Project Echo, a gigantic facility near Austin, and will be the new main headquarters of SpaceX. Damn. Huh. Vossi's... What's this about? We kiss a death that Forge. Good job. Oh, no, nope, nope, we're good. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that. Dude, he's moving the whole damn thing. That's crazy. Moving the whole dang thing. Yeah, and you drove it through the mountains at only half throttle. I still can't believe that, Tessa. Dude, that thing gets up and goes now. It doesn't have a lot on the top end, but it's got torque for days. Especially with that ZF5 gearbox. Like, it's got torque for days, dude. For days. Unbelievable. Rentals are expensive and hard to get at my age, and hotels are even worse. Plane tickets are cheap, though. Yeah, Sneaky. It's going to be a while before I fly on an airliner again. The reason why is the airport gave me COVID, dude. If I had driven to New Mexico, I wouldn't have... Well, I shouldn't... I don't know that for sure, but it would have lessened the odds, I would say. I mean, and before you say, well, how do you know that for sure? Well, to be 100% honest with you, I drove across the entire country during the middle of the pandemic. And we didn't, Brimo and I didn't catch COVID. I did catch COVID at the airport, though. So, yeah. There's that. I'm not worried about getting it on the plane. The plane has the HEPA filters, and it's using a tap-off, so it's not circulating the same air, right? They tap off to pressurize. They have a tap-off from the high-bypass turbofans. I know all about that. I'm not worried about that. It's TSA. I had a thought about this. Where the heck did I catch COVID from? The damn TSA trays. It has to have been that. That's the only thing. That's the only time I got near anybody. Except, I mean, obviously, except on the plane. But I was hitting that hand sanitizer like crazy. Still got it. Brother EJ, forgive me. What is this? Nick, thanks for the 17 months, dude. I appreciate it. And Version with the Tier 2 68-monther. Stay on target. Stay on target. Thanks, dudes. You're not jocking. Who is this? Oh, Arca. All right. Arca's Eco Rocket Heavy. 24 tons to low Earth orbit, 5,600 ton lift-off mass, 12 meganewtons of thrust, 28 meter high, 420, nice. 30 RP1H 202 units for the upper stage. What the hell? I mean, best of luck. Best of luck, my dudes. Actually, you know what's messed up, dudes? Give me 1 second. You know what's messed up? It's not the first time someone has proposed like that many attachable boosters like that. The Conestoga rocket. The Conestoga rocket was like that. Yeah, Conestoga was going to do that. This is private launch before private launch. What the Conestoga was supposed to do is basically take surplus ICBMs and Saturn 1B them together. Yeah, they were going to take surplus Minuteman boosters and then just add them all together. It's a very Kerbal rocket. But see, here's the challenge. Fellas, it is extremely difficult to sequence these engines correctly. Anybody, try launching a model rocket with 2 motors in it. You'll know exactly what I mean. That is a trial to be very sure. Like, it is a little more complicated than just hitting a button and sequencing the engines correctly, right? But try to launch a model rocket with 2 engines. Watch what happens. If you don't get perfectly simultaneous ignition, you're gonna have an uneven load, and obviously your center of thrust is not gonna be lined up with your center of gravity. So the Conestoga, like I said, was a bunch of ICBM stages kind of wrapped around another ICBM stage. Now, you know, low cost because the military, the Department of Defense has tons of these, right? But like I said, you got to be careful about sequencing it because it literally did the most Kerbal thing when they tried to launch it. Yep. That is the most Kerbal rud I've ever seen. And yeah, like I said, life imitates, well, this was way before KSP. This was in the 80s. But also, you have a rud in KSP, it literally looks exactly like that. It is kind of strange. It's uncanny how much that looks exactly like a Kerbal rud. We've had an anomaly. We need to secure the area. So yeah, that's what they were going to do. But sequencing these is tough, man. It's tough. That's hard to do. And OTRAG. The OTRAG is the other one. I don't know why it populated with that. OTRAG was the other one. Clustering rockets like this is not a bad idea. The idea is that your booster is notoriously simple, and if you cluster a bunch of notoriously simple boosters together, you can make a rocket that is very easy to pack together, right? That's what OTRAG was supposed to be. It was just supposed to be about as simple of a rocket in a fuel tank as you can get, and then you just duct tape more of these together. Quite literally, you duct tape. Well, not duct tape, but you just tape more of them together. I keep using that word, and then you can make a bigger rocket. That's the idea. The problem is, like I said, when you get this big, you're gonna have some trouble sequencing all these engines. That is going to be very difficult to do. Mutter sent me a thing. Oh, the Conestoga launch. Yeah. Yeah, this doesn't end well.
4, 7, 6, 5.
I don't know if you guys know that this was caught on tape.
2, 1, 0. Have ignition of the Conestoga 1620. It has cleared the launch
So they did sequence the rockets right. That did work.
We do have pitch over. We have 3. We will have first 2 motor separations at 56 seconds into flight. About 10 seconds.
Oh my god. I forgot how ridiculous this video actually is. Oh my... Oh.
We do have a vehicle anomaly as confirmed.
I can relate to this though. As somebody that's tracked a rocket that has rutted, it was a small rocket, you have this problem. You don't know what piece of debris to track. When the rocket splits into multiple pieces.
At 56 seconds into flight in about 10 seconds.
The cameraman's like, okay, find one, where's one? Oh, there's one, okay, alright, we're good, alright, cool. Got this thing, yeah, that's probably not good.
We do have a vehicle anomaly as confirmed.
Yeah, that's, yeah, and actually, I forgot it was launched from Wallops. I actually don't remember what happened with Conestoga. Hold on, let me check it. Conestoga rocket. I don't remember why it exploded. The rocket launched normally but broke up 46 seconds into flight. ER determined that an unknown source of low-frequency noise had caused the guidance system to order course corrections when none were needed, causing the steering mechanism to eventually run out of hydraulic fluid. Oh. NASA had already decided to deny further funding due to the original delays, and the ER subsequently got out of the rocket business. The remaining assets were purchased by L3 Communications in 2001 for $110 million. Whoops. Yeah, vibrations. The thing that Kerbal doesn't teach you. Vibrations kill the rocket. And I'll tell you what, that's going to have a lot of vibrations. Now, don't get me wrong, you can figure out the vibrations with good testing. No problem. But you also got to... You got to... Yeah. That's a lot of testing. Bits. Hey, High Potential. How's everyone? Doing all right. We got a date for Artemis 1 on the 29th. We're just looking at ARCA's proposed rocket, which, I mean, once again, a monopropellant steam rocket's not a bad idea, guys. It's going to sound stupid. And I know ARCA's history, but eco rockets are not, like, a steam rocket is not a stupid idea. That's not a bad idea. It could work. I don't know if ARCA could do it. Maybe. But steam rockets are not a bad idea. That's... Lights are flickering today a lot. It's not a bad idea. Don't RCS blocks use monopropellant? Well, yes and no. A steam rocket is basically just a water heater with a valve at the bottom, and it just shoots steam out the bottom. Think that time when Mythbusters shot the water heater through the house? Literally that. That's what that is. Now, a monopropellant system that you'd find on like a satellite's reaction control system monopropellant is a little bit on the misleading side. So it's not a monopropellant. Unless it's like a cold gas thruster like nitrogen. So like what SpaceX uses on Falcon 9. Falcon 9 literally just shoots compressed nitrogen out to steer that first stage. And then the second stage has a nitrogen ACS too. The first stage ACS is derived from the second stage ACS, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know where I heard that, but why wouldn't they be the same thing? Makes sense, right? So, the monopropellant system that you'd find on like a reaction control system for a satellite that's kind of misleading. So a hydrazine thruster that you'd find on a satellite in a monopropellant engine doesn't just shoot hydrazine out. That's what you'd think, right? Monopropellant, okay, you just shoot hydrazine out. No. They have a catalyst, what's called a catalyst, inside of the combustion chamber. And what happens with a monopropellant system is when you have a pressure-fed hydrazine system, so you have a helium tank, and that helium tank it has, a pipe coming out of it through a valve that goes into the hydrazine tank. And what happens is that there's a bladder inside of that tank, okay? And that bladder, basically when the helium gets pumped in, it pumps between the bladder and the outside of the fuel tank, so it squeezes the bladder. Hydrazine gets shot out the other side. Think about like if you inflated a balloon inside of like a propane tank. And when you pumped gas into it, it compressed the balloon. That's basically how most hypergol systems work. They're pressure-fed hypergols, like the RCS on Dragon, Orion, Starliner. They all do that. Only they're using bipropellants, right? They're using hypergolic bipropellants. With the monopropellant system, you shoot hydrazine out of its fuel tank with the fuel bladder, and then that hydrazine goes into the combustion chamber and it reacts with a catalyst which heats it up. it heats it up, and it doesn't combust because there's nothing to combust with because it's monopropellant, but it heats it up, and the thermal expansion causes thrust. Just finished my coffee time. Time for me to squeeze the bladder. I don't know about you, Fersham. Coffee doesn't make the bladder go. It makes the other waste system. Not reclamation. We're not doing that. Render start at page 64. Yeah, no, coffee makes me poop. I don't know about you guys. Anyway, either that or flywheels, and flywheels are a pain to drive spacecraft with. Yeah. I mean, high potential personally, I like a combination of both, but obviously there's trade-offs with engineering, right? If you want flywheels, so if you want gyroscopic stabilization, right, coupled with a monopropellant, a hydrazine or aerozine monopropellant system, it's more complicated. Price goes up. It's not rocket science. Wait, you guys squeeze your bladders? Yeah. No. The first rocket as a kid was Freon powered. That thing was spooky. It froze my fingers pressurizing. Jeez. Forgot to share this with you yesterday. Can you check it out? Worth it. The wings. This is the thing about the F-14, right? You shared it with me like 4 times yesterday, dude. Unless it's something different. Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Localized airspeed changes produce condensation over the wings, Squall. That's why the wings, they look like they have, clouds on them for a second. Yeah. It's just going from high pressure to low pressure real quick. No, it's a new one. Yep. But yeah, high potential. What's going on, man? Thanks for the bits. Yep. So, yeah. No, watch 5 seconds, they move. Okay. Actually, it's an F-14. Nice. Squall, the wings on the F-14, if I'm recalling correctly, if there's any F-14 mechanics out there or people that know, refresh my memory, I'm pretty sure that the wings were not, the wings going back and, changing position, so from the forward position back to the swept on an F-14, I'm pretty sure that wasn't controlled by the pilots. It's based off of airspeed. So if you start getting going fast enough, the wings will just automatically go back. And if you slow down, the wings go forward. If I'm remembering correctly. I could be wrong on that one. That may have been the F-111. It may have been another plane. Yeah, it's a passive. I want to say it's a passive system, but that's probably not the right name for it. Like active aero on a car, exactly like that. Potato, yeah. It takes the localized airspeed. So there's a pitot sensor on most planes, and the pitot sensor is basically designed to measure how fast the air is going into it. It looks like a little metal rod that comes out of the nose of most airplanes. The pitot, what it does is, yeah, the air goes in and it measures the airflow. It measures how fast it's going past the sensor, so it measures airspeed. And I believe the wings on the F-14 move dependent on the airspeed. F-111 was automatic for sure. Not sure about the F-14. Yeah, Genesis, I'm only thinking because the F-14 came kind of after the F-111 that's probably what's going on, but I could be wrong. Computer controlled with a manual lock for landing. There you go. That sounds right. How did the shuttle know its speed without a pitot tube, or did it have one? That's a good question, Pigzig. That's a really good question. Well, does the shuttle have a pitot tube on it? Who knows? Who knows? Don't Google it. It's a trick question. One shuttle had a pitot sensor on it, and that's Enterprise, during the approach and landing tests. So, how does the shuttle know where it is? Well, the shuttle knows where it is because it knows where it isn't. It uses an inertial guidance system. Yeah, closed loop. That's what the missile knows where it is, so it knows where it isn't. That's what that's about. So basically the shuttle would come in, and it would find, you know, they could communicate through the S-band with the ground stations, or they could use TDRS, right? Basically, you know, when you go through reentry, you're going to get a communications blackout. So the shuttle would go into closed loop, meaning that it would basically, how a closed loop system basically works is like this. If this is the surface of the planet, right? Let's draw that a little bit better. This is the surface of your planet, right? So the shuttle is up here. It's in orbit, right? And it's on a deorbit trajectory, so its trajectory is going to go down here for reentry. This is most spacecraft, guys. So you have your tracking data and relay satellite up here, right? So you have TDRS, right? And it has a nice big antenna on it, just right. This is NASA's tracking data and relay system. So shuttle could use TDRS, or it could use a ground station. A ground station would be, you know, it would look like Sevenaya from GoldenEye, right? It'd be a parabolic antenna like that. Okay. Just make the tracking dish look not stupid. So when the shuttle is going through reentry, right? So, you know, you could use this, right, to get at your space shuttle. We'll draw a little shuttle here. Yeah, see, that looks nice. There you go. I'm gonna just put little rocket engines on the back and draw a little wing-a-ling, and then that looks good. Coming out of the back of its neck there. So, shuttle's coming in like this, and it can use TDRS, or it could use ground stations. NASA did have a tracking station in Goldstone, so when the shuttle's coming in, no matter where it's landing in Florida, or if it's landing in California, it could use Goldstone, right? So when you start getting through reentry, plasma builds up on the vehicle. It builds up on the vehicle, and it makes a layer like that. Something like that. It doesn't look exactly like that. The layer doesn't go through the wing. That plasma knife would cut the layer off. It looks like that almost, right? So when it gets to this point, you lose communications. So the shuttle has an inertial system in it, meaning that it takes the last point of communication, basically, right here, and then it has onboard accelerometers to basically measure the acceleration or deceleration, and it can kind of extrapolate where it is despite having no communications. That's called closed loop guidance, or GNC, guidance, navigation, and control. This is closed loop. This is open loop over here. So the shuttle used all that information, and then when the vehicle's flying around, you know, when it comes down and the shuttle does a little circly do like this, and it comes down and it lands on the runway, right? The landing gear's in the wrong spot, but you get the idea. It's using closed loop. It uses closed loop guidance, and then and then after that, you could track it basically from there. And once it got a retrack, then it's basically just using the ground stations to figure out where it is. And from there, from all that closed loop guidance, you can extrapolate airspeed. You can figure out everything from there. It doesn't need a pitot sensor. The guidance system will tell it exactly where it is. I said consummate V's. Where is Goldstone? In Goldstone? Here. It looks that looks like it's north of Bakersfield. Yeah, Grapes, every spacecraft does that. Fellas, every spacecraft does that. Heck, fellas, fighter jets do that. Fighter jets do that. Heck, 737s have an inertial guidance system in them. Yeah, between that, GPS, VOR, and ILS, the plane can always, you will always be able to know where the plane is, and that is a huge thing that feeds into something that that is very vital for pilots. Doesn't matter if you're piloting a spacecraft. Doesn't matter if you're piloting a F-14 or like an F-18 and trying to, you know, bomb a nuclear enrichment facility or whatever. Top Gun. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They all use this. They all use the closed loop guidance system as a redundancy. And you can extrapolate airspeed basically from closed loop guidance. It's just the computer needs to do the math for you. Anyway, Goldstone. Goldstone is out north of Bakersfield, if I'm looking at this right. And we are out in the middle of nowhere. Nope. Bakersfield's over there. No, it's east of Bakersfield. So if you go looking out here, we should be able to find some big honking radio antennas. I think I saw them. Pretty sure I saw them out there. Yep. That is one of 3 ground stations for the Deep Space Network, or the DSN. These radio antennas are designed to communicate with anything that's past TDRS. So anything that's out of high Earth orbit, and there's a lot of them out there. It's not just those. There's more tracking antennas over here. That all forms one avenue for the Deep Space Network. I believe these are all. Nope, those are something else. I don't know what those are. Ordnance storage, if I had to guess. But there are tracking antennas. There's more than just those in that valley over there. They're around. You got to look for them. And then there's that totally sus runway just sitting there. But yeah, that's Goldstone. These are NASA's tracking. These are NASA's deep space tracking satellites, or radio antennas, I should say. Did we finish the ground stations for KSP? No, I want to build these in KSP. Yeah. Nice, Phil. We got to finish building them, don't we? Wait, so you're telling me the plane knows where it is because it knows where it isn't? That's what the whole missile joke is, Stone. But yes, that's what it is. That's the Deep Space Network. There's 3 of those stations around the world. NASA has 3 Deep Space Network tracking locations. There's another one in Madrid, in Spain, right there, and then there's another one in Canberra. In Australia. The idea is that each one of them is 1/3 of the way around the planet, so as Earth is spinning, you can always get coverage. These Deep Space Network antennas can bounce signals off of TDRS, so NASA can always track whatever in any direction. That was the idea. And you know what's actually pretty damn cool? If you Google DSN now, right? You can see exactly what it's doing. It's all public information. You can see exactly what it's doing right now. This is what the Deep Space Network is communicating with from all 3 stations around the world right now. Like, Antenna 63 in Madrid is communicating with Voyager 1. That's a long way away. It's going to take a while for that signal. That's why they need the big antenna. These antennas are huge, guys. They're like VAB huge. Well, maybe not VAB huge. Let's say High Bay at Boca Chica huge. That's a 70-meter antenna. 200 feet. These are the 30-meter ones, Chris. These are 70s. That's a 70-meter antenna. All 3 of them. Actually, NASA just finished building out Goldstone 14. That dish is brand new. The one that's communicating with... Oh, it says DSS. It's testing. So look at Madrid 53 is communicating with the Lucy spacecraft, so the asteroid survey spacecraft, and then Madrid 56 is communicating with the Advanced Composition Explorer. I forget what that thing does, but I'm gonna guess it has something to do with the sun. Goldstone 25 is communicating with Bepi Colombo. Bepi Colombo is a mission to Mercury, if I'm remembering right, from the Europeans. The ping time on Voyager 1 is 1.81 days. Yeah, catching. That's why they need a big antenna. And then check this out. Canberra 34 is communicating with something you all might know. They have 4 dishes per ground station. Some of them have 4. Some of them have more than that. It looks like Goldstone has 3 operational right now. So it was those antennas that we saw in the valley. Yeah, Goldstone 25 in California is talking to James Webb, and then Goldstone 26 is talking to OSIRIS-REx. Pretty cool. That's on its. OSIRIS-REx is a mission that has basically a vacuum cleaner on the end, and it sucked up a little bit of an asteroid, the asteroid Bennu. It's an asteroid sample return mission. So if you look, it's got a little pod on the front with a heat shield, and they vacuumed up some of the asteroid. That's literally a vacuum cleaner. How else are you going to do it? Seriously, how else are you going to do it? Actually, to be fair, it shoots compressed air at the asteroid, and it creates a vacuum that sucks up asteroid material into this little dish right there. And then it's on the end of a little robotic arm, and they put the sample inside of this pod, and OSIRIS-REx is coming back right now. It's coming back towards Earth with asteroid junk inside of it. So what you're saying is we need more ground stations. We've seen that video before. Yeah, if you guys want to see that new antenna being made, Goldstone 14, it's in Forge's thing. Just came in. What's the word? August 29th. Ozzy, what's going on here? We're looking at the Deep Space Network. So check this out. Canberra 35 is pointed at Mars. It's looking at Mars Express, Mars Odyssey, Maven, and then a Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. It's communicating with a bunch of different things right now. But yeah, this is what NASA's Deep Space Network is doing right now. Pretty cool, huh? I always thought this was really neat. You can literally see what they're doing, what these tracking stations are doing right now. And the crazy part is that when Orion goes past the TDRS satellites, they will be using these to communicate with it. True story. What's 43 talking to? 43 is talking to Juno. Juno? Now that we have the A1 launch day, what's going first, A1 or Starship? Hard to say. What is this, Forge? Jack Whitlock asks Peter Beck, what are your opinions on Astra's plans for the future? Peter Beck says, aspirations are easy to sell. Execution is always the absolute measure, and there's often a little too much of one and not enough of the other in the industry. Ooh. Ooh. Peter Beck is low-key one of the most savagely honest people that I've ever seen in this industry. Somebody asked him one time, a little while back, you know, what sets your small sat company apart from every other small sat company? And you know what he said, plainly? He goes, my company launches stuff into space. He's not wrong. The guy ain't wrong. He's not wrong. Yeah, Joey, and the best part is that he didn't say stuff either. My company launches stuff into space. I mean, yeah, Hypno, right? He launches shiitake mushrooms into space. Yep, that's what happens. I like it. See, dude, you need to... I know it's kind of a dick thing to say, but he's right. He's right. You know, hopes and dreams are only going to get you so far. You need to have you need to not have your head up your tailpipe. And I'm not saying that anyone in the industry does. But you can't have your head up your tailpipe when you're doing this stuff. You really have to have your head in the game. And he's right. I agree with him. I mean, Forge, that's just an absolutely savage comment, huh? What is this? This is somebody asking Chris Kemp if Astra's rockets are reliable. What does Chris say?
So, Chris, is your launch rocket technology now stable and reliable, or are you still having to work to try and minimize failure risk?
Yeah, we're focused on really scaling up the number of launches. Astra has already sold over 50 launches, and so we're in a phase right now of increasing the production rate of launches, increasing the number of spaceports that we'll be launching from. We just announced that we'll be conducting our first launches out of the UK as early as next year from the Saxford spaceport, again working through the license process there as well. And really just expanding our launch operations is what we're focused on today.
So, Chris, is your launch rocket technology...
Okay, fellas, I'm not about to go and defend, you know, Chris Kemp. If I ever get into this industry, I'll try not to dodge. Like, I would try to never dodge a question like that. However, here's the thing. So, Astra is trying to do something that is a little bit difficult, a little bit on the difficult side. Okay. To be 100% fair, you want what's really going on. There's a reason why he dodged the question, and everybody. The easy thing to think is that he dodged the question because his rockets aren't reliable, right? Like, that's the sitting and looking at this for 5 seconds and being like, yep, okay, no, they're not reliable, and that's the truth. They aren't. Astra has had a lot of failures. But here's the thing. I'm not about to go to bat for Astra, but I do like what they're doing. And the reason why is because, so, with the exception of like their rocket engines, Astra's rocket is something that you could literally build going to Home Depot and getting parts. Straight up. It is about as simple as you can get for an orbital launch vehicle. Like, we're talking ICBM simple, but not refined materials. It's all off-the-shelf stuff. Off-the-shelf nuts and bolts, off-the-shelf parts. It's really like a COTS rocket that you'd see at like Spaceport America. It's about as simple as you can get. Now, here's the thing. With a rocket that goes up to 10,000 feet and comes back down, that's not too big of a deal. With a rocket that goes into orbit, that's a little bit different. And on top of that, Astra's trying to use their totally modular launch pad, which I still think is a cool idea. They can literally launch anywhere that there's a parking lot, which kind of puts my, you know, parking lots are not launch pad kind of thing to rest, but whatever. I still say that parking lots aren't freaking launch pads, but it doesn't matter. But what Astra's trying to do is, because their rockets are very, very inexpensive to make, with the exception of the engines, right? Because they're very inexpensive to make, you're gonna encounter failures. Why? Because you're using nuts and bolt parts for, like, you're using off-the-shelf nuts and bolts. You're always gonna have problems because some of this equipment, and this is why rockets get so expensive. The tolerances here, everything needs to be perfect. You know, and what Astra's trying to do is make rockets with off-the-shelf parts that aren't necessarily perfect. You know what I'm saying? It's not an easy thing to do. That actually is harder, trying to make a rocket out of just stuff that you can go find at the hardware store. Straight up. But that's what Astra's trying to do, and that's why they've encountered so many failures. They've encountered so many failures because what they're trying to do is build off-the-shelf stuff, something that you could, I was about to say something that anyone could build, but that's not the entire case. Like, their rocket is just sheet metal that's been MIG welded. It's very, very simple. Their fairing is just sheet metal that's stretched over an aluminum frame. It's very simple. This is very, very easy stuff to make. That's why they can launch a lot. But thing is, when you go and launch like that, excuse me, sorry, I'm still getting over COVID, fellas. When you go and launch like that a lot, and you do that rapid prototyping, especially when you start launching with launch customers, you're eventually going to have to deal with these problems. You know, you're going to fail a lot. And Chris Kemp can't say that. He can't say that, oh, well, yeah, my rockets aren't reliable yet, but we're getting there. That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea of this company. We're trying to make it cheaper. And when you try to make it cheaper using off-the-shelf components, not specifically refined components, you're going to encounter problems. But he can't say that to the press because they won't understand. They don't understand that you can't just go down to the hardware store and build a rocket. Rockets have a bunch of specifically engineered parts. There's thousands of components on every single rocket. Everything has to work correctly. And sometimes when you're using off-the-shelf stuff, you run into quality problems. But, once again, that's what Astra's trying to overcome. That is a very hard thing to do. I can tend to say that Astra building off-the-shelf stuff like that is a hard thing to do because there's no quality control on the parts that they use. They just buy it from the hardware store. They're trying to make it more accessible that way. They're trying to make low cost to low Earth orbit that way. And it's very clear that from Rocket 3.3 or 3.4 or whatever, that Astra is kind of getting away from that because they're making newer rockets that are bigger that aren't doing this. And also he has to protect the shareholders because Astra is now publicly traded. On top of that, there's the other thing. Yeah, so he gave the shareholder response. He can't he can't say that. He can't say that, yeah, no, they're not reliable, but what we're trying to do is because we're using less expensive components, it's going to take more time to get reliable. He can't say that. He can't say this. So, look, if we go down in here, let's see what everybody's talking about. I'm just curious to see if anybody came to that conclusion. Engines are core competencies for launch vehicles since they're fundamentally flying gas tanks. And when a launch provider has to outsource their engine, Astra to Firefly, that doesn't bode well. Yeah, Mr. Slippery right there is on it. ULA seems to do just fine without building their own engines. Yep, well, that myth gets put to bed. Then that's a no. But understandable why he avoided it. If he said Astra rockets are unreliable to start. See? Alright, people get it. People get it. But when does the, what they're trying to do is hard excuse become just that, an excuse to cover for their failures? Not sure. Hellfish, that is an entirely contextual thing. And I will say that we're getting to the later end of that being more of an excuse than anything. Yeah. At this point, you should be starting to get reliable. But once again, you're going to have quality problems. You're going to have quality problems because when you go down to the hardware store, the stuff that's in there is designed to build like a house. My lights are fluttering like crazy today. A house is not engineered to the same tolerances as a rocket is. Straight up. So, I don't know. I mean, I would assume if they did an IPO, right, they went public with the company, that they're probably closer to getting reliable. But, yeah, they really, I'll be honest with you, man, the last couple of failures that they've had have not been the fairing one on LV-8, I think, the fairing not opening and the second stage firing inside of the fairing. That was honestly, that wasn't a hardware problem. The hardware worked exactly as prescribed because that was a software problem. The software controlling the hardware wasn't coded correctly. You know? So, like I said, he can't be honest about that question because if he is, his company's stock price will tank. He knows that. And it's kind of at odds with what they're trying to do. Yeah, I mean, Pop Bear, you're not wrong. In this industry, you can't make excuses either. You know, like, that's why I got so pissed off when NASA that one time was like, yeah, we can't get to the moon because we can't get to the moon in 2024 because it's infeasible. Bro, you're NASA. You're supposed to make that feasible. That's your job. Okay. Yeah, excuses in the spaceflight industry don't go over very well, so... I mean, that's the other reason why I want to say that. But yeah, interesting. Did we ever hear why the last launch failed? I've heard nothing about it. And it was a NASA mission. It was Tropics, excuse me. The IPO on Astra in March of 2021 opened, and they got up to $20 a share, and now it's at $1.5 a share. Ugh. That's no good. They did it in the 90s. They did it in the 90s with far less tech and knowledge. Should be feasible. Stonks. Yeah, Grapes, I know what you mean. Huge improvement over our current systems. Well, you know, it was designed to sense the ocean, Grapes, and it's in the ocean. Does that help? Strongen, yeah, no, I'm just... Dude, the coughing came back. I was getting better and better and better, and then the other night I just started coughing like crazy, and now it's back, which... That's expected. Annoying, but expected. I apologize if that's distracting. I kind of have to be here. It's my job. If you want me to like hotkey mute the mic when I'm doing that, I will. Anyway, guys, it's 1:30. You guys want to? Well, you could jump into space news or play game. Play game. Shall we play a game? He smokes a lot. Yeah, I've been chain smoking like crazy. Do you want to dance? Stop smoking. I'm sorry. Hey, smooth skin. Coughing is a good thing. Get all the junk out. Coughing. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, maybe we should keep playing Satisfactory. Yeah, you want to do that? Nah, I don't play Finland Simulator during the day. That's a late night game. Just because it's mildly inappropriate. Ozzy, hey. Crossing. 17-month resub. Just think, EJ, 3 acres of Fords. Wait, what farm? What are you talking about? You can't just say that. You can't just say that. And Tank Farm is active, and S24 just did igniter tests. Oh boy, sweet. What happened to the break for chocolate? Well, that's the break. That's the break a little later. What's the Juno mission? Juno was a mission to Jupiter, if I'm remembering right. It's hard to keep track. NASA has a lot of probes all over the place. This is right off of NASA. So, Juno is a space probe orbiting the planet Jupiter. It was built by Lockheed Martin and is operated by JPL. Spacecraft was launched on CCAFS. I mean, this is not from NASA. This is from Wikipedia. Sorry, weird dyslexia today. Yeah, it's part of the New Frontiers program. Juno entered a polar orbit on July 5th, 2016. Hey, my birthday. All right, cool. To begin a scientific investigation of the planet. After completing its mission, Juno will be intentionally deorbited into Jupiter's atmosphere. Juno's mission is to measure Jupiter's composition, gravitational field, magnetic field, and polar magnetosphere. Yep. No, I'm not playing. I don't want to play Tarkov. Any Apollo 11 videos for the anniversary? I think we'll find something. All right, what's this next thing going on here? Okay, Forge, last thing, dude, and then we gotta... I want to play games, dude. So, Launch Complex, Harry Stranger got a couple of sad pictures of 39 at Kennedy Space Center on July 12th. We could see CRS-25 on 39 as well as construction progress of the Starship pad. Hey, hello. Any idea what the mystery structure is? Bauxy, I'm looking at this right now, and I'm looking at these concentric rings next to that mystery structure, which was the octagon thing, and fuel tank. Looking at it in this picture, fuel tank. I don't know if it's for water. It might be. It might be a water tower. One more quick because 777X. Oh, no. We've looked enough at the freaking plane. No, stop it. Stop it. I'm going to play satisfactory. So, that structure is right here. Okay? And we know that SpaceX is doing something to that hydrogen tank. They cut a bunch of holes inside of this hydrogen tank. See them right there? And then patched them up. That is the shuttle and the Saturn V's hydrogen tank that was here. You can tell it's a hydrogen tank because of the way it is. No, dead giveaway would be the purge flame that's over here somewhere. The purge flame tower and a percolation pool. See? That's the purge flame for hydrogen, and then you have a percolation pond. So they might be doing something with that if you... fellas, why did I never notice this before? Look, heat exchangers. Yeah, they're using the hydrogen tank. They're going to use the hydrogen tank for methane. Yeah, the heat exchangers are there. See them? Those are the same things that are at Boca Chica, right by the methane tanks. Yeah, I know. How did we never notice that? When was this picture taken? Yeah, heat exchangers. They're going to use that tank. Yeah, those are at Boca Chica. I can show you them right now. Those same exact things. Those weird elephant-looking manifolds. I'm hearing it's supposed to be a water tower like this or like this. It could be. Could be a water tower. It's possible. But if we go down here and we look at the Starship pad over here... See? There's those heat exchangers right there. There's 2 on the methane side and 4 on the LOX side. Interesting. Oh, yeah. Look at this picture. Yeah. There's the OLM. And then there's the crane next to it. And then Starship's right there. That's probably ship 21 if I had to look at. There's booster 4. Yeah, we recycled something instead of scrapping it. Wouldn't be the first time, Surfer. SpaceX back in the day. This is old news at this point. This was 12 years ago at this point. Actually, probably more than that. 14, 15 years ago. So, if you zoom in on pad 40, there's a big old LOX tank right there. See that? That's the liquid oxygen for Falcon 9. That's the LOX tank. And then over there is RP1, right? And then I think pad 40 has a nitrogen purge sound suppressor like pad 41 does. Either that or RP1 is over here. That might be nitrogen and water. Those could be water tanks. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say that those are probably water tanks because it has the pneumatic systems next to it. You see all those? Those are nitrogen racks right there. That's basically a trailer with a bunch of nitrogen tanks on it. The short, skinny tanks are always pneumatic tanks without failure. And it looks like they pump that nitrogen into these water tanks, and that shoots the water into the flame trench. It's a gas purge sound suppressor. As opposed to a gravity-fed like 39 with the water tower, right? So that would tell me that RP1 is over here now. Not now, it's been over there. So that's LOX right there, right? That LOX tank was recycled. That's not Pad 40's original LOX tank. In fact, that LOX tank stood there for about 40 years. That is the LOX tank from Complex 34. If we go back and we look at older pictures of 34... Come on.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
We need a semi-clear one. Where is it? It should be here. Maybe they brought it to a storage facility or something. I know that that's Complex 34's LOX tank. Either that or it's 37. But I doubt it's 37's because 37 was active at the time. NSF is live for testing. Okay. That LOX tank was sitting around here somewhere. And SpaceX moved it. You want to see one of the weirdest pictures ever? Here, I'll show you. This is a super old picture at this point. This it's a very 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 old one. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, Forge, you got it. Look. Yep. So SpaceX does pick up X parts. They recycle a lot of things. Yeah, they refurbed that tank from Complex 34. And this is a picture. This picture, I mean, it doesn't look that old, but that picture was a long time ago. And it's a very strange picture. That's a big ball. Yep. Test the rules. 27 months. Thanks, buddy. Yep. How about that, huh? Pretty cool. So, I don't know. That could be a water tower, but it's pretty dang clear. It's pretty dang clear that the heat exchangers are there. So, they're going to use that hydrogen tank. And because there's only 2 heat exchangers, because there's only 2, I'm going to guess that's the methane tank. And if that's the methane tank, there's the old Saturn V RP1 loading facility. So the Saturn V had liquid oxygen over here, liquid hydrogen over here, RP1 right there. And they kept them all very, very far apart from each other. And then the water system is right there. And then during the shuttle, they got rid of the RP1 loading area and just used liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. And now that SpaceX is out and about, they had to switch it back to RP1 and LOX for Falcon. And I think the RP1 loading facility is right there. That video is not available anymore, Forge. Anyway, so the heat exchangers are there. That tells me that they're going to use that for methane. So if that's the case, where's the LOX tank? Well, an easy thing that we could do is trace the lines from the LOX tank if we really wanted to. The lines from the LOX tank go up here, in here, and then they go into the launch plate. Is there any new construction around here that looks like there's LOX going through and coming out somewhere else? Negative. But then again, this is an older picture, so. How many people work for SpaceX? Good amount, dude. It's into the thousands. Yeah, well into the thousands, dude. I wonder what that line is for. There's a line going over here, and it's definitely some kind of commodity. I just don't know where it's going. Maybe first 12,000 from the last time you heard. Yeah, they're definitely up here. See all this? This is old new infrastructure, believe it or not. That was supposed to be Starship's pad, but then SpaceX changed the design from a flame diverter to no diverter, and they're building the new pad over here. This stuff right there is, yeah, this is all the old fuel commodities that they were going to use. They were going to divert the line going this way, but now they're going to do it over here. So we have, I mean, they might use the LOX tank. I don't know. They might use that LOX tank for Starship, but I wouldn't want to screw with the infrastructure for Falcon 9, right? You don't want to mess with Falcon 9. You don't want to take the pad offline. So that tells me that they're going to build a new LOX tank, and that tells me, what I'm thinking is that it's going to go right there. Either that or it's a water tower. I have no idea. Wouldn't mind being a janitor there. Yeah, I'm with you. All right, fellas. Isn't that a little close for a LOX tank? Comparatively to the LOX tank at 39, Sumo, yeah. SpaceX seems to not be... I've noticed this. SpaceX doesn't seem to care if their fuel tanks are really close. I don't know about you, but if it was me, I like, it's not too much extra work to just put the tank, like, over there and put your RP1 over there, or your liquid fuel over there, and your oxidizer over there, and just keep them away from each other. That doesn't take that much extra work. The pad has a smaller footprint, but the pad has a much bigger footprint, and you have a BDA, which is what they did during the Saturn V. You notice all the commodities are all spread out completely, so there's no chance of them ever mixing and blowing up and doing what Booster 7 did, right? But yeah, I don't know. SpaceX doesn't seem to give a frick. They don't care. But like I said, that's not. They've done cryogenic propellants in close proximity like that before. That has happened, and it really is not that big of a deal. Sea Launch used liquid oxygen and RP1. And they were everything was on one footprint like this. So the rocket was insanely close to the fuel tanks, and nothing ever, I was about to say nothing ever went wrong. But also at the same time, one time a Sea Launch engine shut off right after ignition, and the rocket came right back down and fell into the flame trench and blew up, and it didn't damage it too much. Hey, Violent. Maybe they need them to get closer to get lower temperatures. That's possible, Tylen. Yeah, you could theoretically increase your fuel capacity. So check this out. You want to see old school NSF? Look at this.
1. Go inertial.
See what I mean? That Zenit rocket took a dump right onto the oil rig, and it landed in the flame trench. And parts of the rocket shot out the sides of the flame trench, and the pad wasn't too damaged, and the fuel tanks were maybe a couple, I don't know, like 10, 20 meters away. Really wasn't that big of a problem. I didn't know NSF was a thing before DOS. Shaw, I remember reading the NSF forums in high school. Yeah. During lunch break in high school, I would go read the NSF forums. Strangely enough. That was like in 2005, 2006. Yeah, I would go read. I didn't understand what anyone was saying in there, but I would do it. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what any of this means. Anyway, let's play Satisfactory, dudes.